So I'm doing this video here, and this video is the first of many videos that I have done in a long time. So yeah, I know I talk a lot about the homeless, but it is a serious issue because I feel that it's happening in a lot of metro areas, primarily because of the inflation of um, that we have experienced and that is ongoing. And now we're hearing talks about this debt ceiling, and that could potentially affect many people in the US. The clock is ticking. So, for that, and that's a whole nother animal altogether. But this right here is really sad because I never thought that they could evict people that live in mobile homes. But unfortunately, I believe this is a possibility, more than just a possibility. It is something that is happening to some people in Phoenix, Arizona. And so there's multiple articles, but you can take your pick. But um, low income tenants tend to be the ones that are targeted in these type of actions. So this is a low income mobile home park, and the low income tenants, they happen to be seniors, elderly people, people who are low income that live in these mobile home parks that are being raised. This is out of Associated Press. Um, and I thought it was really sad because these people live on a fixed income. So it says Alondra Ruiz Vasquez and her husband were comfortable in Periwinkle Mobile Home Park for a decade. So they had been living there for like 10 years or more. So feeling lucky to own their own mobile home and pay $450 a month and their lot in a city with spiraling rents. And so I'm afraid that's happening in many cities. And I'm afraid it also is going to start happening in rural areas where you would think things would be cheaper and more affordable. But I feel like it has to do with economics, and economics can hit not only the metro areas, it can hit the rural areas as well. So sometimes people tend to move out of the city because of the high rents, and the cost of living is a lot higher and more expensive, and they try to move to the country. But if you have developers and people that are pretty much all about the money, that can happen anywhere. So it's not just in the cities, just so that the cities have a lot of more amenities, like maybe venues, and everything is accessible, and it's easy to get to. You don't have to drive miles to get to it, and everything is like right at your disposal. But now that is changing, where money is the big issue for a lot of people, unfortunately. So it says this group of people that live in these mobile home parks in Phoenix, Arizona, it's called Periwinkle Mobile Home Park. And so they didn't have to pay as much rent, and they they have mobile homes where you buy them. But the issue with mobile homes is the space lot. You still have to pay for that lot, that area that you're living in. But if they decide that they want you to relocate or move, you don't have, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of options. Um, so it says now they're bulldozing the area, and why? They want to put Grand Canyon University in that area, so they want to buy that area, and they have. So money talks, unfortunately. But now there are dozens of other families that have until May the 28th to leave the Phoenix Park mobile home area, which nearby Grand Canyon University they purchased 7 years ago to build student housing. So that's what they want to use that area to take over and use it for student housing. Two other mobile home communities are also being cleared this spring for a new development. And this spring, the new development in the city where no new parks have been built for more than 30 years. So I'm here, well, because this is one of the people leaving their comment of what they've experienced. And they said now they have to go and they have nowhere to go. This was said by Isabel Ramos. She says, I'm here, well, but because I have nowhere to go. That's why. So, who lives? She lives at Periwinkle with an 11-year-old daughter. I know I don't know what's going to happen. So the raising of the older mobile home parks across the United States worries advocates. So this is happening in many places. And so the reason I'm doing this particular video, you notice everything has to be about housing and money, and now it can affect the debt ceiling if it doesn't work out. It can also affect mortgage rates and make them skyrocket. Everything has to do with housing. We have this crisis of homelessness. Well, what do you think the raising of the mobile home parks is going to do with people who are low income? Create people a new drama where it's homelessness or either people doubling up with family members, and then that's kind of hard to do when their space is limited. So, mobile homes are a much bigger part of our affordable housing stock than people know. So, this was said by Mark Stapp, who directs Arizona State University's master degree program in real estate development. So, once it's gone, a lot of people will have no place to go. So, a recent survey by a national low income housing coalition showed the U.S. wide shortage of 7.3 million affordable rentals homes for extremely low income renters, defined in Arizona as a three-member household making 28,000 a year or 28,850 or less a year. So industry groups estimate that more than 20 million people that live in these 43,000 mobile home parks across the US. So we are in the deepest affordable housing crisis we've ever experienced. This was said by a Joanne Carr, acting head of the Arizona Housing Coalition. So, housing for many people is getting completely out of reach. So, it's very dire. So, Ken Anderson, president of the manufactured housing industry, of up to about the modern standards, can be cost prohibitive for owners, requiring replacement of electrical and sewage infrastructure for newer homes. At least six such communities have been torn down in Arizona in the last 18 months. So that's how fast that they're working to get rid of these places that are low income and establish other, either if it's another housing or that might not be affordable, or it could be a, a business, or it could be a school or something, like how they're putting up the school housing. So a lot of these parks are 70 years old. This was said by Anderson, noting an uptick in demolitions of these mobile home parks of older communities for redevelopment. So it's going to be a big problem down the line as well. So they're actually forewarning that this now is the areas that they're touching or targeting now. So it was, people trying to find apartments that were affordable, and then they were trying to build apartments, but affordable to one person might not be affordable to another, because we found that to be a problem in some of these newer buildings that they're building. They only reserve a certain number of units that are affordable, and that affordability might not be that affordable, if you get my drift, for the regular people that earn less than 28,000 a year. Even 30,000 a year might not be enough for some of the new housing that they're building, because they ask for market rate rent, or they ask for the highest um, before the cap of what they are asking the people to pay monthly. So that's usually what happens, and it puts people in a burden position where your rent burden or your mortgage burden or however you would say that it affects you. So efforts underway to revitalize old mobile homes have limits. So despite their name, most aren't truly mobile, and moving them can be very costly. So that's the other thing. Some people think maybe we can just move the home off the lot and relocate somewhere else and still keep the home and just be in another location, but it isn't as easy as people think it is when you start finding out what you have to do to get that underway. That also costs money. So is it fair to say that even having a place to live is becoming now a luxury, which is an unfortunate situation? Um, it's happening to a lot of people, and notice I feel that it's not by accident. And most of this seems to be targeting people of low income, people of color, people who are older. It's just the whole gamut. And so it's sad. Um, so the Department of Housing and Urban Development recently announced a $225 million grant in to governments, tribes, and nonprofits to preserve mobile home living, but the money can only be used to replace and not repair dwellings. That's the issue before 1976, so which are common at older parks. So Vermont earlier this year announced a mobile home improvement program to be funded by $4 million in the federal money. So it aims to help park owners prepare vacant or abandoned lots for new mobile homes and help mobile home owners install new foundation and make their dwellings more habitable. So in Riverdale, Utah, the last of the 50 families at Leslie Mobile Home Park must leave by the end of May, which is, this month. They don't have very much time left, just a couple of weeks, unfortunately, for construction of this mobile home area of new apartments and townhouses. So just hearing that, it's scary because you already know it's probably going to be unaffordable um, for the persons that we're speaking of here. So some old parks weren't originally envisioned as permanent housing. So Florida City Campsite, an RV camp, was built decades ago, and it was for vacationers headed to Florida Keys or the Everglades. But the dilapidated park eventually became home to retirees of fixed income and young families on government assistance. So, Florida City, the southernmost municipality in Miami-Dade County, sold it to 2 years ago for a new townhouse project. So cities often don't like older parks because, unlike the other housing, they don't generate property taxes for municipal services. So rundown parks can also be eyesores, depressing um, the worth of nearby properties, even as the value of the land the mobile homes sit on has increased exponentially. So the Phoenix Grand Canyon University said in a statement it waited as long as it could to build new student housing after buying Periwinkle in 2016 is when they bought it. So now with this need to expand this this housing, student housing, university has raised funds to provide multiple layers of assistance to the tenants that are living currently at Periwinkle Mobile Home. So the university said it initially gave residents 6 months to leave and then extended the deadline to the 13th months. So it offered free rent for the first 5 months of this year early departure compensation, relocation assistance, and some household goods. So many park residents are Spanish speaking immigrants earning minimum wage as landscapers or restaurant workers. So there are also retirees that are living on Social Security there. So we haven't found anything under $1,800. So that's way above what we can afford, Ruiz Vasquez said in apartment rent. So she said the couple's mobile home is too old to move and it must be abandoned. So it's really taken a toll on our health, mental state of mind. So Maricopa County, home to Phoenix, has a housing shortfall of more than 74,000 units. So Zillow.com currently they list the median monthly rental price for all bedrooms and property types in the Phoenix area at 2,095 a month. So more than 20 families have moved out of Periwinkle in the recent months, leaving behind weed-strewn lots, the rusting hulks of several mobile dwellings with rotting wooden stairs, and that's what was left behind. So residents wanted an additional 18-month eviction moratorium or a zoning change to stave off their departure indefinitely. So the Phoenix City Council this spring decided to let the eviction proceed, but set aside 2.5 million in federal funds for the housing nonprofit Trellis to assist Periwinkle and other mobile home park residents facing this eviction. So Trellis CEO Mark Trailer, who once headed the Arizona Department of Housing, said a nonprofit is working to help Periwinkle families find apartments and arrange to move mobile homes that can be moved. So still, Phoenix activist Salvador Reza said most families face uncertain futures after this whole announcement of this student housing being built for Grand Canyon University, and they're being uh, evicted and their mobile homes are being razed out or bulldozed. So some of them might move in with another family and with an uncle or an aunt. This is what he said, and some might go out into the streets and become part of the homeless population. So, a new law in Arizona recently increased the state funds for the owners forced to move their mobile homes because of the redevelopment at $12,500 for a single section dwelling and $20,000 for a multi-section. So those who must abandon their home because of precarious conditions can get $5,000 for a single section home and up to $8,000 for a multi-section home. A multi-section home. So Periwinkle residents, uh, Gracella Beltran said it's not enough money, and they're exactly right. That's not going to be enough money for them to relocate somewhere else, especially if they need to find a whole nother place, and then they need food and they need lodging temporarily until they get themselves together. So they say they want my house. She asked, they want my house. She asked. So her voice was cracking. So give me a house that is equal to mine then. So basically, that's what she's saying. So this is really sad. So it says, give her a house that's equal to hers, and I am not asking for anything more. So that's pretty much the end of the article. It just went over some of the things that they say that has been happening. So it says one of three entrances to the Periwinkle mobile home is fenced off from the street. This happened on Thursday, April 11th, 2023 in Phoenix. The remaining residents of the mobile home park are facing eviction deadlines, and that deadline is May 28th due to the private university's plan to redevelop the land for student housing. So that is what they are facing. And it's an unfortunate situation. So I don't think this is the only place. They actually list that there were some other places, and there's been recently more mobile home parks that have been bulldozed or are about to be bulldozed, and it's going to be an ongoing thing, sounds like. So, what do you think about it? It just seems sad. It looks like homelessness has a lot of layers, so it's different types of levels of homelessness. So it doesn't always just mean somebody that is necessarily on the street. You can be homeless, and I've seen this here in Los Angeles County where people are in mobile homes, but they're not in a mobile home park. They are in a mobile home that somehow maybe they bought like cheaply from someone, and what they're doing is more than likely they're living in it, and they have to move it from place to place to place, and it isn't new. And so I see a lot of that up and down Vermont boulevards, and it's in other areas as well. I've seen it where you're going to the marina. There's areas where you just see mobile homes, but there's no mobile home park, and they're pretty beat up, but it's homeless, mobile home living, or you see people on the street in tents. Um, and it's growing. The homelessness is growing, and the robberies, I think, that we've been hearing about. Just last past week, there is a 99-cent store. You know how people break in, they want to get money right away. Well, this group of people, they loaded up their baskets with food. It wasn't money that they were after, it was food. And so, like three of them, they come in with masks, they loaded up their baskets, and they run out the store, and they get close enough to the door so that they can make a run for it, and they're fast and you can't catch them, and you don't know if they have a weapon on them, so nobody's trying to run after people like that because you don't know how desperate they are. So that's been happening a lot here. um, the crime goes up as well when you take the natural or the basic resources away from people through eviction, through, you know, um, laying off jobs. A lot of that's been going on. And now taking away the only homes that people have to live in that are affordable, then you can expect to create more chaos, more homelessness, and more despair. So it doesn't look like this is at a stopping point, and that is alarming.